This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
All right, so after recording this video, a bit of news broke about Abdul Carter. This is from Ian Rappaport. It says, test at the Combine revealed that the potential #1 overall pick and Penn State star Abdul Carter had a stress reaction in his right foot and he may have surgery. Option 1 would be to have the preemptive surgery and have the screw inserted into his foot. Be back in 8 weeks, Drew Rosenhaus said. Ian Rappaport then went on to add, Carter can 1, have surgery, 2, work out at his pro day, show teams that he doesn't need it. Either way, we don't expect this to change where he's drafted, said Drew Rosenhaus. After visiting with teams this week, I believe he's going to be the #1 overall pick. So basically, I don't think this is going to be a big deal. It seems like the surgery would be preemptive in the recovery timeline for it. I mean, we're not even talking about disrupting anything but like maybe rookie camp. You know, he'd be back by what? If he gets the surgery now, we're talking about 8 weeks. So he misses the month of March and in April. By the time he's drafted, I mean, he doesn't even miss rookie camp if he gets the surgery now. If he waits till after his pro day, then we're talking about what? April, May. All he misses is what? Yeah, what? Rookie camp, maybe a little bit of OTAs, voluntary OTAs, but then he's back by mandatory OTAs. Real nothing burger of a story. Well, not a nothing burger, right? It is important to note that he has the foot injury. It's also important to note, like, did he get this while working out? Is this an injury he had the whole year? He just discovered at the Combine? I think those questions are a little bit more important than like the time or the length of injury affecting his draft stock, because if you were going to draft Abdul Carter #1 overall, I don't think it changes if you have to wait 8 weeks for him. It wouldn't even change. You have to wait like maybe 2 months for him, right? Like a player like that you draft with a long-term vision in mind. If you're asking me if this changes anything about Abdul Carter, if Abdul Carter's there at 2, even with this news, I'm still taking him at 2, and I'm not really hesitating about that. But yeah, that's the news that broke. I know a lot of people are going to want to have that addressed or talked about with the topic of this video being what it is. So here is that. We talked about it. Now back to the regularly scheduled video. One of the things from the first day of the Combine that seems to have manifested itself is the thought that Abdul Carter, this guy that I've been wanting the Browns to take it at 2, might not even be there at 2, right? For a long time, and this happens, right? The pre-draft process usually early on heavily favors the quarterback position. You look at almost every big board or mock draft from right after the season ends, always has a quarter. You see Teddy Bridgewater, like all these different quarterbacks that did not go #1 overall in the early portion of the draft process, always mocked super high, but then the process continues, and then we see more fluctuation at the quarterback position. This seems to be where the path is headed this year. And as the quarterback position has slid down draft boards, Abdul Carter has steadily rised up draft boards. Now, I know some people like to act like I'm on this like individual crusade and I'm the only person in the world to think Abdul Carter is a really good prospect. Like you'll hear people like act like I'm going out on a limb and act like I'm crazy for thinking Abdul Carter be worth the #2 overall pick. But it seems that a lot of the NFL agrees with me. And it feels like as of now, Abdul Carter's going #1. Tennessee Titans, I think they just released Harold Landry, which points even heavier in a direction that they have made their decision at what they're going to do #1 overall. Another thing to think about, right, with everybody talking about how somebody's going to go quarterback here, a lot of first-year GMs in the top 10, especially at the places that people expect to go quarterback, right? I think a first-year GM is the least likely to take a chance on quarterback because those are the GMs who have time. They don't have to take a quarterback immediately. They can wait a year or two. Almost nobody expects you to be good in the first year of that GM being there. GMs usually get 3-4 years. So there's really no pressure for some of these teams with new GMs to take a quarterback, right? Unless they love the quarterback. Like the Raiders don't have that much pressure to do it, let alone trade up. We're going to talk about that in just a second. The Giants, they don't seem to have that much pressure to take a quarterback. The Titans, we're seeing not much pressure, right? The teams that are usually pressured into taking quarterbacks are the teams with GMs who are at the last year of the contract or, like on a prove it type year, on the hot seat. Those are the teams that are more likely. Why it's always been interesting to me that even though the Browns feel like the team that's most desperate for quarterback, they also don't give off the vibe that they're super excited about quarterback. And if the Browns aren't excited about quarterback, I can't imagine that there's going to be a heavy market here. But anyways, back to Abdul Carter. Seems like he's going to go number 1 overall. Not a surprise. He's a great prospect. I think he could be Von Miller. That's a Hall of Famer. You draft Abdul Carter at 1. That's a good pick. Can't hate on it. Can't hate the Titans for doing that. I was hoping that they'd fall in love with Travis Hunter, but it seems like they're moving heaven and earth to let you know that if they keep that pick, they're drafting Abdul Carter. Now, is somebody going to trade up to 1? I doubt it. I am low on the probability of anybody in the top 3 being able to get anything substantial for trading back. I know why people think it could happen. I just don't think that the logic is sound. Again, in order to believe that the Browns could get an extra first next year or some kind of like substantial trade back package, you have to have your foot in 2 worlds. You have to have your foot in one world that says, hey, these quarterbacks aren't worth taking at 2, and even the Cleveland Browns aren't going to do it. And then you have to have your foot in this other world that says, hey, but even though these quarterbacks aren't that good and the most quarterback desperate team in the draft is willing to pass on quarterback here, we have our foot in this other world that says somebody's going to be willing to mortgage their future to draft one of these quarterbacks. You see the disconnect? Like if I'm New York, if I'm the Jets or the Giants or the Raiders, this feels like a class where I'm like, hey, I'll wait and see what happens at 6. There's no rush for me to jump up here, right? Shador, you might like Shador as a prospect. You might like Cam Ward as a prospect. Are you willing to sacrifice your future for those guys? I think if a team has a hard time making that decision at 1 or 2, you got your answer right there, right? If the Titans don't want to do it, if the Browns don't want to do it, and the Browns and the Titans are willing to sell you your picks so you can move up and do it, and I don't think anybody's going to be willing to do it. It feels like the energy, it's one of those drafts where everybody in the top 5 wants to trade back. And whenever that's the energy, there's never going to be a trade back, right? Or the package you have to take for a trade back is just never going to be worth it. We've seen this in the NBA. We've seen this in the NFL, right? A year where everybody and their mama, right? If you listen to Browns talk, people have been talking about trading back from 2. If you listen to Titans talk, they've been talking about trading back from 2. If you go and listen to New York Giants talk right now, they've been talking about trading back from 3. Can we get a quarterback needy team to trade us a quarterback, to trade for the quarterback at 3? If you listen to Patriots talk, they're doing the same thing, right? Every team in the top 5 has been talking about how they could trade back. If everybody wants to trade back, who wants to trade up? And even if somebody wanted to trade back, well, not trade back, even if somebody wanted to trade up, let's say Pittsburgh wants to trade up, get into the top 5, they love Cam Ward. Okay, that's the decision they're making. And they're willing to risk the future to do it because this is a year where they can get a top 5 pick for an affordable price. So this is what they're going to do. Even if that was the case, in Pittsburgh, one team wants to move up from 20 to get to 2. Well, now you got 5 different teams competing with each other to offer a package to one team. which means the price going to go down, which means the likelihood that you get fair value for that pick drops dramatically. Too many people want to trade back right now for me to think that you can bank on a trade back at 2, which makes Abdul Carter going number 1 interesting, because let's assume, right, we when we hear Abdul Carter goes number 1, which not most Browns fans, a lot of Browns fans have been automatically throwing Abdul Carter there at number 2, not even thinking about it, and I think that's a great pick if the Browns get Abdul Carter at 2. But if Abdul Carter goes number 1 overall now, okay, what do you do at 2 if you can't rely on a trade back being there? How shitty of a trade back offer are you willing to take? Are you willing to jump back to 12? Because like a lot of people think that we're going to live in both. Like, again, this draft is not good enough at the quarterback position to assume that you could just get a top 5 pick trade back and then get a bunch in return for it. Like, I don't think those two realities connect. Either you think this quarterback class is amazing and you take a quarterback at 2, or you don't think this quarterback is amazing and you can't rely on somebody else being in love with this class that almost everybody has these guys ranked outside the top 10 on, and being willing to mortgage the future to take them at 2. Y'all get what I'm saying? Y'all get what I'm saying when I'm saying, like, it just doesn't make sense that people live in these two realities at the same time. They contradict each other. So instead of having the conversation, oh, we're just going to trade back. What if you can't? What if the only trade back offer you're getting is in 20? And they ain't even trying to give you a first next year. They're trying to give you a second. It's a bad offer. What do you do? What do you do at 2? We haven't had this conversation enough, right? If you don't want to take a quarterback, but if you can't find a trade back, well, what the hell do you do? Do you draft Travis Hunter? I don't know if the Browns want to do that. I think they like him as a prospect a lot. We're gushing about him in the press conference, but they also said they see him as an offensive player. I don't get that. Maybe because they need a wide receiver. They're hoping he can be an offensive player, but, we'll see. Do you go Mason Graham? I like Mason Graham as a prospect. Number 2's a bit high for him, but, he'll be a good pick. Do you go Janty? Like, what do you do at 2 if you can't get Abdul and you can't trade back? My mind goes to just take Travis Hunter. That's where my mind's at. Take Travis Hunter, put him at DB, call it a day, right? Because, again, I'm not banking on a trade back. And Abdul Carter feels like he's going to go 1. So just go Abdul. Just go Travis Hunter. Now, if you do not think that Travis Hunter, like let's say Travis Hunter goes to the combine, he weighs like 150 pounds. Well, shit, now you're in a more vulnerable situation. Do you just go corner, right, and take Will Johnson? Do you take Mason Graham? If I had to take somebody who's not Abdul Carter or not Travis Hunter, right, the 2 prospects I think that have the potential at least to be a lot more special than average, then I think the most safe pick you can do is Mason Graham. You can secure a lot if you take Mason Graham at 2. Mason Graham feels like a player who's going to play for you for like the next 10 years. I don't know how many all-pro teams he makes, but he will make a couple Pro Bowls. He will be a good player. Slightly overdrafted at 2, though. It's going to be interesting. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think there's a good chance? Like, this is the question I want to ask, actually. If you are somebody who wants to trade back from 2, but also doesn't want to take a quarterback, what do you think is going to create that market other than somebody's going to be incompetent? Right? Like, are you in the belief that we're just smarter than everybody else? Or are you in the belief that you think somebody is just going to be irrational? Like, really explain why it is that you feel like the Browns could get that trade package at 2. Because I'm not sure if that's going to be there. I wouldn't want to count on it. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. Everybody have a great day. Have a great night. Peace.